I see it happen a lot. Somebody goes like, yeah, no, this project, right? Like, there's only 3 of us on this island, like, that do construction. This one's perfect for us. It's right up our alley. And then they hit that bonding limit, and they've spent all this business development time and energy, and they really can't get the bond. And that's disappointing at the end. And I don't want that for anybody. So knowing your bonding limits before you go chasing these big RFPs, before you go like, hey, like, we're going to do all this sort of like prep work for this.
Hey everybody, welcome back to SAS-GPS. We're here with Sarah again. Hi Sarah.
Hey, well, how are you today?
We're doing good, my friend. So today we're going to be talking about bonding requirements and what every government contractor needs to know. And I guess we'll start with the very obvious question. What are bonding requirements, Sarah?
Yeah, that's a good question. So bonds are basically financial guarantees that protect the government. Basically, they're risk management tools for the government. And like,
Gotcha.
In real quick summary, yeah.
Yeah, no worries. And what are usually some bonds that are required for, like, let's, for example, like construction contracts or general contracts, I guess.
Okay, so there's 3 big ones that you're going to see all the time. There's bid bond, there's performance bond, and there's payment bond. And basically these are for making sure that if something goes wrong, like you back out, you go bankrupt, you don't pay your subcontractors, that there's a backup plan and the government is not on the hook for that money.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So what's a bid bond then? Let's break that down a little bit more.
Yeah, a bid bond guarantees that your bid is serious. If you're awarded the contract and then you decide you're just not going to do it, or you can't get a performance bond, the government can collect on your bid bond to cover the cost of that, like reprocuring that contract. So think of it as showing like that you're putting skin in the game when you submit your proposal and that you're serious.
Gotcha. And what typically, like, what type of contracts are usually, using the bid bond?
Well, a lot of construction contracts, right? A lot of things where there's a lot of different ones that do bid bonds. It just kind of depends on your industry. They're more common than like performance bonds, but all of them can be quite common. So it just kind of depends. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And then and speaking of performance bonds, what does that look like? What does that entail?
So performance bond is the big one, right? A performance bond basically says that you're going to finish the job according to what you've told the government that you're going to do and their specifications. So then if you default on that and you can't do it, then the surety company that gave you your bond steps in and pays the government or will hire someone else to finish the job. So it's protection against non-performance. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it will, it's serious. You don't want to do non-performance, but performance bond, if you know you can perform, performance bond shouldn't freak you out, but it is a pretty big hurdle sometimes to clear.
Yeah, no, I understand 100%. And then what about payment bond?
Okay, so a payment bond, it ensures that you, like all your subcontractors, your laborers, the material suppliers, that all of those people get paid. And that protects the government against liens, legal claims, especially if you're doing public projects where like legal remedies like suing the government aren't necessarily available. And so if you're doing a job where you have a lot of subcontractors, laborers, material supplies, construction is a really good example. A payment bond is quite possible.
All right, Sarah. So now that we've talked about kind of like what the different bond types are, how does a company actually get one?
Okay, so bonds are issued by surety companies, which are often they're divisions of like large insurance firms. But they don't just hand them out. Like, it's not just like, oh, I'd like this bond for $100 million. And they go, oh, sure, here you go, right? They're going to review your financials, your credit, your project history, even some of your experience before approving you. And the more the bond is for, then the more sort of that you're going to have to prove, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, that makes sense, right? And is bonding only for construction, or is it mostly is it for other industries as well? That, obviously we have our big specialty is like construction and IT, right? But like, what are you seeing in the other industries?
So mostly it's only for construction, but there are other industries that might have bonding requirements, but mostly construction. The standard requirement for federal construction projects is that if it's over $150,000, you're going to have some kind of bond. And a lot of different states have different regulations, but states do the same thing, right? So if you're doing state and local instead of federal. We're seeing, though, some performance guarantees pop up in IT and different service contracts too, especially on really higher dollar mission critical work. So bonding is something that everybody should be aware of because you just kind of never know when you might need to know
Yeah.
what bonding is, at least in like a high level, like from this video.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Okay. Great. So, how much bonding capacity should a small business then aim for, Sarah?
Yeah. Ideally, you want enough capacity to cover your average project size, plus maybe, let's say, a 20 to 25% buffer. So if you do $100 million construction projects, you might want a $125 million bond just because you might, it might pop up and you don't really have a lot of time. Like especially if you're cutting that contract short, like, whoa, we got 2 weeks to get this done. That's a big bond to get in 2 weeks, right? So it's good to get them ahead of time. Lots of contracts require 100% performance and 100% payment bonds. So your bonding limit has to match that full contract value. You can't be like, well, I'm almost bonded enough. That's just an automatic disqualification. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, 100%. And then what happens if you okay, so let's say, you go through the process, you do everything, but you don't meet the requirements. So what happens then?
Well, long story short, you cannot bid as the prime contractor if you cannot meet the bonding requirements. However, you do still have options. You could do joint ventures, mentor proteges, teaming as a sub under someone who is bonded. So it's always good to have connections and options there. If this really is the right job for you, you just can't get that bond, you may have to work with another company who can.
Yeah, no, for sure. 100%. And then how do you so, obviously as a small business, it's a small business, right? Like this, you can't reach the bond, but how do you then increase your bonding capacity over time?
Okay. Perform well, do a good job, finish your projects on time, stay profitable, don't go over budget, right? And don't take on more than you can handle where you get overwhelmed and then you're your finances are a mess. So keep your books clean. Surety companies like financial health don't really care about your technical skills, right? It's just about financial health. So really being financially diligent is the way that you increase your bonding capacity over time.
Yep, 100%. And then can you reuse a bond across multiple contracts, or is it just for one?
You can't technically reuse a bond. Each bond is project specific. It's going to be tailored to the size, the scope, and the risk of that particular contract, but you can get pre-approved for a bond, right? And so if you have multiple contracts that you're bidding on, you're going to need multiple bonds or a program with enough aggregate capacity that covers all of those contracts, right? So you could have an aggregate bond. So yeah, getting yourself sort of pre-approved. It's not that different in some ways than if you were buying a house and you have to have a mortgage, right? And you get pre-approved before you can bid on the house. You can't say yes, I'd like your house until you have a letter from the mortgage company. So you want to have that letter from the surety company ahead of time, ready for that size and scope. And then they will look at it and say, this bond has been issued for this particular project.
Gotcha. Let's say somebody has a contract that they're going after for 20 million and another contract for 20 million as well, right? Can they get a bond for 50 million and cover it together, or does it have to be a specific bond for each one of the projects that they're going after?
Okay, that's a really good question, and it depends, right? It depends on the requirements of those particular projects and what are those projects like? Did you just win 2 really similar VA projects that are coming out of the same office? They might let you do an aggregate one, but if one is a state project and one is a federal project, maybe not. You're just, as always, the rule is read the requirements in your RFP, right? Read them and know them and then meet them. So, and then it's the same with bonding, including with aggregates. And if they don't say and you're wondering, you can ask the contracting officer. There's always a question and answer period, and that's a perfectly valid question.
Yeah. And if you're just a new construction business, right, starting out, and they're trying to get bonded for the first time, what do you recommend they do?
I recommend that everybody start small, right? I know that the really big ones look so tasty, but start small, win a few of your bonded jobs, deliver them well. Then you build trust with your surety company. You keep your financials tight on those. You're accurate, you're transparent. You're going to get more from being accurate, transparent, and sort of organized, right? Then you are getting from flashy revenue. Oh yeah, we had $100 million job, but if all your financials are in ruin, right? The surety company's yeah, well, so, and they can be picky. So
yeah, absolutely. And then what should a contractor ask a bonding agent before bidding?
Okay. three things. How about that? Can you support bonding at this size? Because you don't need to be talking to them if they can't bond you. If they can't bond you for $100 million, period, like can't bond anybody, then you're in the wrong spot. And then when you're looking at like what kind of like bonding limits that they're going to give you, what's my single project and what's my total capacity, right? And then really what documents do you need for me to get pre-qualified? And go ahead and ask those way ahead of time so that you can start getting like, get all those documents ahead, get pre-qualified before the bid is actually up or the bid is live. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's great. I mean,
I think it's really important actually, just for a second here, is like, it happens a lot. I see it happen a lot. Somebody goes like, yeah, no, this project, right? Like there's only 3 of us on this island, like that do construction. This one's perfect for us. It's right up our alley. And then they hit that bonding limit and they've spent all this business development time and energy and they really can't get the bond. And that's disappointing at the end, right? And I don't want that for anybody. So knowing your bonding limits before you go chasing these big RFPs, before you go like, hey, like we're going to do all this sort of like prep work for this. Don't wait. Or even worse, like you've got maybe some like pre-qualification letter, but you didn't do like a lot of specifics, and then they awarded to you and you get bonded. Then that's why you have those other bonds, right? You don't want to trigger any of your bonds if you don't have to. So don't wait until the last minute to find out what your bonding limits are and if you can get a bond. Yeah. I
actually have one more extra question that wasn't on what we talked about here. Is like, because again, this is like your expertise. You look at this day to day, right? I'm more the marketing person. So, but is there an RFP specifically require a specific type of bond, or can you get like it? Okay, gotcha. So
it'll say, and a lot of times it'll say like I tell people, open up the document. That's the like procurement document. Open up the search function in that PDF, right, and type in bond. And look everywhere in that document that it says bond, because it might not be together in the document, although a lot of times it is. But sometimes it's not. So like your performance bond might be on page 30 and they're going to ask you for a different type of bond in another place. And then, I needed 2 bonds and I missed that because or whatever. But yeah, it's always in there. It's always in there. They're not going to surprise you with a bond requirement. Yeah, but if you're a construction company, you know that. Like some of those IT ones or some of those other ones that we started seeing bonding popping up in, that I think it kind of does get people because they're not expecting it, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Okay, awesome. Well, I think that's good. I think that gives everybody an understanding of kind of like what are the bonding requirements, especially people in construction. As you guys can tell, our team kind of knows their stuff. If you guys are looking to bid in construction contracts or any contracts that have bonding in them, Sarah and the team are very available to help you guys out. We're always here to provide free consultations, and then obviously we have a lot of info on our website. We have blogs coming out weekly, videos coming out weekly, newsletters if you guys want to go to our website and sign up for that. So Sarah, is there anything else you want to leave them with?
No, I think like if you have questions about bonding, we're happy to try to answer your questions. And if you have a solicitation that you are bonded for, we're ready to help you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll see you in the next video. Bye, Sarah.